أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Has anyone got any questions from the previous lessons? So we went through a lot of we're still in the chapter of dua, because dua huwa li'ibada. Dua is actually a worship. The best means for linking yourself towards Allah Azza wa Jal is dua عند الخلوة, is dua being alone. When you're alone, you start finding yourself again. That's why many people, even many many psychologists, they will always say, try to look for some time alone. Because alone, sometimes it puts things in perspective. That's why when you're alone, you actually in search for the truth, in search for your being as a person, which means that you're always you'll ask Allah Azza wa Jal more. So dua is a link between yourself and Allah Azza wa Jal. And he says in وَفِي قَالَ رَحِمَهُ اللَّهِ رَحِمَهُ اللَّه, may Allah Azza wa Jal have mercy upon the author, what he says. وفي صحيح الحاكم في حديث أنس عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تعجز في الدعاء فإنه لا يهلك مع الدعاء أحد. He says, and don't prevent yourself from making dua. فإنه لا يهلك, فإنه لا يهلك, he'll not annihilate himself, meaning that he'll always going to be upon the truth because of the dua. He'll always going to remain firm and steadfast because of the dua. Then he says وذكر الأوزاعي عن الزهري عن عروة عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله يحب الملحين في الدعاء. Allah Azza wa Jal loves the one who is mulih. Man is constantly asking. He stands up, he makes dua. He sits, he makes dua. Even if it means water, please. Even if it means something less, not even less, like few words, like astaghfirullah, Allahumma aghfirli warhamni warzuqni wa'afini, Allahumma inni as'aluka bi rahmatik. He's constantly on the move. His tongue is very much moistened the minute he wakes up. In the morning he says, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith aslih li sha'ni kullah. One of the greatest dua someone can ever make. Allah, straighten my affairs. ولا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين. And don't move away from me, even if it means a blink of an eye. So he starts his day with the dua and reminds himself his motive for the day. Then he says, إن الله يحب الملحين في الدعاء. Allah Azza wa Jal loves the one who is constantly asking dua. وفي كتاب الزهد الإمام أحمد في القتادة قال المورق. Now مورق is a tabi'i. He says ما وجدت للمؤمن مثلا إلا رجلا في البحر. He says I've never found the best example except a person in water. على خشبة. It's like a boat. It's like a nauka, back home. It's like a wooden ship, Then he says, فهو يدعو, and then he asks, يا ربي يا ربي لعل الله عز وجل أن ينجيه. That he hopes that Allah Azza wa Jalla saves him from this sea, meaning he makes it to his journey. So he's constantly in the water, because when you're up in the sky, in the plane, in the sea, anything can happen. You're in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal now. When the plane lifts off, when it's high up, the fear, when it goes turbulence. Think about all those people who went through turbulence in the plane, in the aircraft. Many actually, subhanallah, many people out there didn't make it. They didn't make it because they thought they're so safe. These are some of the things that they're not going to tell you. When it's go through turbulence, it's all in Allah Azza wa Jal hands. So he says that the best person he saw a person is a man في البحر فهو يدعو يا ربي يا ربي, oh my Lord, لعل الله عز وجل أن ينجيه. Then he says وفي فصل من آفات الدعاء, ومن آفات الدعاء التي تمنع ترتب أثر الدعاء عليه أن يستعجل العبد ويستبطئ الإجابة فيحتسر ويدعو الدعاء وهو في منزلة بذر بذرا أو غرس غرسا فجعل يتعهده ويسقيه فلما استبطأه كماله وإدراكه تركه وأهمله. So he says that one of the problems, one of the issues that people will go through, or a person may go through in his life, is that he will not go through the process of the dua, meaning that he will start becoming very agitated. Agitation will come along, meaning that such a person, he will go through the process, meaning he will plant the seed. He's doing everything that's there, meaning his means, but he will start becoming agitated even after a week or 2 weeks. He will start becoming agitated. You know what? Why is my dua not really answering? What's going on? What's going on? I've done everything, man, but it's not really happening. Do you know what I mean? So what happens later on is he becomes فَيَحْتَسِرْ. He starts sighing like he becomes so tired. وَيَدْعُ الدُّعَاء. And he becomes really slow, and he leaves, and he becomes neglectful, and then he leaves the dua completely. Now, leaving the dua completely, what does a person go through in real life? Despair. When someone leaves the dua, he becomes despair. He becomes agitated, and the shaitan will come to, you see, look what your Lord did. He left you, mate. Do you know what I mean? He's not there with you anymore. So, the process of dua is actually, you do the means and you carry on upon that path. You carry on making that dua. You don't stop. You never stop. Yunus alayhi salam, when he was affected with skin disease, when he was affected with all those kind of illnesses, internal and external, he only had his tongue that was moist. He actually went through that stage for many years. He actually went through that stage for 7 years, actually, from the athar, from what's been reported, for a number of years, to such an extent when his spouse left him, he didn't actually have no one left. He became the lowest. But Jalla wa Ala has never let him go. I think that's something that always, comes in my mind, kind of. Do you know what? Whatever happens, it might take a bit time, but you can't leave the dua completely. You can't leave your means. You can't leave everything. You just have to continue and continue. And same thing I tell some of my patients that I've come across. I always tell them that, it's going to be a lengthy journey. What I tend to do is I tend to prepare them and give them a mindset that, everything I tell you, please remember and don't let it go, record it. Then I tell them that, listen, your dua might be answered after a very long time. Are you willing to take on this process of healing? He said, look, I have nothing to lose here anymore. I've tried everything. I've spent so much money on my healing. It's not going anywhere. I said, then be prepared for a long, lengthy process of healing. But do you know what? I will guarantee you 100% Allah will give you shifa. 100% Jalla wa Ala will give you shifa. But be careful, be mindful. Take on the process, take on the healing method, and don't let it go. Then alhamdulillah, a whole dua, inshallah we're going to be going through all the dua. I teach the person just like I teach a person, like a small child. Alif, Ba, Ta, we go through it together, just so that they pronounce it correctly. Because even that can be a defect in the person's healing process. Sometimes how you're saying it wrong. So everything can be delayed. Because Allah knows what's in your heart anyway, but you're not presenting it me very well. Do you know what I mean? Jalla wal is Malik. Al-Malik, he's a king. You have to come to him presentable. So you present it really well. You show your sincerity. You show that you're broken. You show it to him. Don't let it go. And I think when someone goes through difficulty, you don't share it to people. You don't do i'lan, you don't let people know, hey, I'm going through difficulty, man, help me, Morizia, do you know what I mean? You don't say that. You only tell the trusted ones. It's fine to say it. It's fine to take istishar from the people. But the right people, family members, the best person to talk to is your family members, someone who's got some sort of understanding. Or you ask the ulama, or you ask someone who's got wisdom, and you keep at that. And you continue with the dua, a lot of dua. After Isha, you raise your hand up. Why have to say after Isha? Because before everyone's busy. This country will make you busy, makes you run around. Even if you're not working, you're still running around. So best time is when everyone's asleep. Everyone's asleep, or everyone's kind of calmed down now. At night time, you do 2 rak'ah. If you've done your Isha in the masjid, if you haven't done it, put your musalla, and you make intention. Before you make the dua, if you know that you're making the dua at night time, stop laughing. Prepare it way beforehand. You prepare it way beforehand, couple of hours beforehand. Stop laughing. Don't watch anything. Calm it down. Put your phone a bit aside and think about what you're going to say. And then you bring it out slowly. You start saying words, beautiful words. And you raise your hand up. And then you say everything that is there. So let the heart talk. And the heart, let the heart link towards Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's the best dua you're ever going to make. It's coming right from deep down your heart. And you're trying to tell me Allah Azza wa Jal is not watching the person. Wallahu muttali'un ala ma fi nufus. Allah Azza wa Jal, He knows what's in your heart. Very well. Allah Azza wa Jal loves that action very much. Subhanallah. فَيَحْتَسِرُ الدُّعَاء is a very big problem. Someone for him to think, Allah Azza wa Jal is not going to give it to me. That's a very wrong thought. It's a shaitani thought. It might take a bit of time. But guess what? What's going to come with it is much more bigger. Because you're only making dua for this thing. But when He gives it to you, He adds more things to it. Things that you don't even know yet. Maybe imagine you're making dua for example, your family members' health. Maybe your mum's health. That because someone's very sensitive to you, mum's falling ill and whatnot. You make a lot of dua. Maybe Allah Azza wa Jalla, if you making dua for your mum, your children's health can be good. They will be raised up without any kind of illnesses. Can you imagine? It's going to come more. Jalla wa ala will not going to only give it to your mum, He'll give it to everyone. Because of your patience. Because of someone's patience. So even Al-Qayim will be speaking about that anyway. Then he says, وفي صحيح البخاري في حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول يستجاب لأحدكم ما لم يعجل يقول دعوت فلم يستجب لي. Then he says that our Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم in the hadith يستجاب لأحدكم, that Jalla wa ala will answer you ما لم يعجل, so long you're not hasty, so long you're not in haste. Then he says, يَقُولُ دَعَوْتُ فَلَمْ يَسْتَجِبْ لِي. It's like he says, I have asked Allah, but He never answered me. Finished. Period. He hasn't answered me. That's the worst kind of mindset to have for a mu'min. وفي صحيح مسلم عنه لا يزال يستجاب للعبد ما لم يدع بإثم أو قطيعة رحم ما لم يستعجل. قيل يا رسول الله وما استعجال؟ قال يقول قد دعوت وقد دعوت فلم أرى يستجاب لي فيحتسر عند ذلك ويدعو الدعاء. He says that Jalla wa ala will continue to answer your dua so long you're not asking Allah Azza wa Jalla for a sin. ما لم يدعو بإثم, so long you're not asking for a sin. أو قطيعة رحم, or breaking family ties. Or making dua for someone to be cursed, or someone's life to be ruined. ما لم يستعجل, and so long he's not hasty, so long that person is not in haste. فيحتسر, and he sighs, he's agitated to such an extent he leaves the dua completely. Jalla wa ala, even that waiting period that you're going to be going through, whatever you ask, that waiting period is still good. It's still beautiful. You know, when someone goes through difficulty, he or she will always going to be more closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. It's a different feeling altogether. It's a different feeling altogether. For someone to feel lonely and not having enough people with them is also beautiful. There's also, you know, when someone, you know, many brothers I met abroad, they feel so lonely because, you know, they had a lot of people around them. Because I think I probably lived there for more longer, I used to go and talk to them and kind of, you know, boost the morale. I saw many young brothers, you know, 17, 18-year-olds coming over to learn and whatnot, but they don't realize what they're going to face. Cleaning, cooking, it's all by yourself. Sometimes you don't even like their food anymore. Food is expensive. You know, Egyptian people are very annoying. You know, they're not very nice people. You know, they're so annoying. You know, they're not very nice. You know, and then you find, you know, noise, and then the people, and then the women in the cashier. You know, a whole lot of problem comes along. You know. So they become really tired, you know, where have I come actually? You know, I come to the land of Musa alayhi salam. Like, have you really come to the land of Musa alayhi salam? You know, maybe long time ago, mate, do you know what I mean? And now at the time of Hosni Mubarak, do you know what I mean? You know, and then you realize, you know what, it's a different lifestyle that they live in, you know. So you talk to them and then they feel so lonely, and but you tell them, do not just focus on the thing that you came with. And that will take you forward. Don't worry about family and everything. They are there, they are fine. And that's to advise them that, you know what, come with, you know, if you can go back home, back to London, back to your own country, and, you know, come with someone along with you, that might be better for you. Come with your spouse, you know, go and have a small nikah and come with your wife. At least that loneliness is going to go away. Sometimes they said, you know what, look, I can't do nothing at the moment. I'm very financially in difficulty. The only money I had, I came with it. That's the only thing I have. Then you tell them, then be patient, think about your books, think about your learning. But the loneliness they go through is something ajib. You know, they feel so lonely, you know, every day is a day for them to wake up and do the same old thing again. Then you go out with the brothers to eat and whatnot. That's the only time they will have for socializing. And then again, you go back to your room and that's a four corner. It's a bit of a prison type, do you know what I mean? But these are the things that they will go through. But that's the test, and in it there's always beauty. Then he said, فَيَحْتَسِرْ عِنْدَ ذَلِكَ الدُّعَاء. وفي حديث أحمد حديث أنس قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يزال العبد بخير ما لم يستعجل. قالوا يا رسول الله كيف يستعجل؟ يقول دعوت ربي فلم يستجب لي. Yeah, I think I just said that. أوقات الإجابة. Then he said the time of ijaba, the time of answering. Jalla wa ala, for his mercy, he has given us certain timing, but if you hold on to it, then there's more chance of answering. And we know وإذا جمع مع الدعاء حضور القلب وجمعيته بكلية على المطلوب وصادف وقتا من أوقات الإجابة الستة. If that person is very much sincere and he conjoins whatever he desires, and also he conjoins with all the demands in his due time, and that's 6. And then he says وَهِيَ الثُّلُثُ الْأَخِيرِ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ, and that is the time of tahajjud. We all know that, and that's the ultimate one. There needs a bit time where you kind of take a nap and then you kind of try to wake up that last hour before Salatul Fajr, you know, the last hour and a half, depending. So that's the best time where a person can get up and may make wudu, or maybe if he can't or she can't do it, then they have to stay up for the night, you know, just to make up, just to be having that time. وعند الآذان, and in between the adhan, after adhan and iqama, there's the best time to make dua. وبين الآذان والإقامة وأدبار الصلوات المكتوبات, and also after the fard salah. After the fard salah, you make the dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla. وعند صعود الإمام بين يوم الجمعة على المنبر حتى تقضى الصلاة, and also in between the imam going up, you know, Salatul Jum'ah, when the imam stands up and he sits down, and that time that you have, you know, that little couple of seconds that you have, that's the time for ijabah also. وآخر ساعة بعد العصر من ذلك اليوم. Also يوم الجمعة, that last hour that you have, before Maghrib starts. It's also the best time for someone's dua to be answered. I think there's a small point there. That last hour, brothers, on Friday, generally, people stay quite busy. So sometimes you're probably driving, sometimes you're probably at home. I think it's really important for us to know that, even if it means for me to say a sentence of dua is also important. Even if it means in the slightest, Allahumma khfirli warhamni. I think it's also important to take that note, because Friday is the best day, the day where Allah Azza wa Jalla created the dunya, and that's the last day before the day of judgment going to start, Yawm al-Jum'ah. And there's always ikhtilaf when it's going to really start. But the last hour before Maghrib, I think it's really important to hold on to. I haven't seen many people celebrate this kind of dua, and I've seen more people abroad celebrating that time than here. Here it's all about running, behind money, and everyone's busy, and even if you're not working, you're still busy, you're still running around. So I think even if it means a dua, that something very small, even if it means to shut the door, just be alone. Even Salatul Asr, after you've done the Salatul Asr, before Maghrib, put a timer on, I'm going to say a sentence, one word, but sincerely. I think that's also important. Even in Salatul Janazah, you'll realize the Janazah going to be accepted. In Salatul Janazah, there's no more ruku, no sajda. Even the least that you can say, the ulama of fiqh, they say, Allahumma khfir lahu. Even once. In Janazah, only one sentence is minimum. Can you imagine? Can you imagine Allah Azza wa Jalla, what He really requires from a mu'min? By one sentence with sincerity, think about how far it can take someone. Then he says, وانكسارا بين يدي ربي وذلا له وتضرعا ورقة واستقبال داعي القبلة. Then he says, وكان على الطهارة ورفع يديه إلى الله حاجته التوبة والاستغفار ثم دخل على الله وألح عليه في المسألة وتملقه والدعاء رغبة ورهبة وتوسل إليه بأسمائه وصفاته العليا وتوحيده وقدم بين يدي دعائه وصدقة فإن هذا الدعاء لا يكاد يرد أبدا. Then he says, the feeling that you should be getting, the feeling that you should be getting is softness, feeling broken in your heart. That softness has to come out from you. That feeling of guilt, that feeling of brokenness, and with sincerity, along with facing towards the Qibla, with tahara, with wudu, facing towards the Qibla, and then you say the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. Ya Ar-Rahman, Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, Al-Salam, Ya Al-Mannan, Ya Al-Hannan, Badi'u As-Samawati Wal-Ard. You say the best of names. I think here there's also the four opinion. There's 14 opinion of saying of the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. That is, I think I'm going to mention here, that they say that what are the best name of Allah Azza wa Jal. The ulama who done the istiqra, who done the deep study of the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, come up with 14. I'm going to mention some of them. One have said, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. Okay? Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum is the best name of Allah Azza wa Jal. Another one has said, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Why, brothers? Because in Quran Al-Karim you cannot start unless you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Then also the third one, which is very much we all know, that is Allah. The fourth one is Ya Dhal Jalali Wal Ikram. Dhal Jalal Wal Ikram. And also the fifth one is La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minal zalimin. That's that one also. And they have their respected evidence for that. Okay. Then he says, facing towards the Qibla with the tahara, with wudu. Okay, with wudu. But brothers, how do you do wudu? Okay, another issue that comes about, how do you do wudu? Wudu, brothers, that you don't make common mistakes in wudu, meaning you don't waste water that time. When you use the water, you use it and you turn it off again. Even in that wudu, there's an ibadah. Some brothers, what they do, they're so rushing that they are not even willing to wash that part of the organ. They do up to here. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he used to extend it all the way to here. All the way here. Fearing, you know what if I miss it out? And then also the common mistake brothers would do, they also, I think it's really important to teach our people that we know of, is that they will leave out the rear area, the back area of their ankle. They just kind of rush it. But it's also important to make sure that water is touched in every part of the ankle. And then you do it properly. You make sure you put your fingers in on the toes and properly. And then you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawwabin wa ja'alni min al-mutatahhirin. You say all the prescribed, the sunnah dua, in wudu. You make the intention that you are doing it for tahar and for dua and for salah. Even the intention, when the ulama have said that it's not part of the wudu, but still you make the intention. Because the intention, why brothers intention? Because it differentiates between your normal life and your worship life. So you make the intention. For me to drink water now, I'm not gonna have no intention. I'm just drinking water. Me to sit like this now is my normal lifestyle. The way you are sitting here now, it's normal thing that you're doing. It doesn't need anything extra, no extra intention, nothing. Even though the fact that we're sitting together is an ibadah, in a bigger sense, it's an ibadah, because we're learning the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. But what you're doing now, the brother decided to sit like that, he's sitting like this. But when you had the intention, it's different. When you had the intention that, you know what, I'm going to do wudu, I'm going to stay calm, I'm not going to start telling my kids off for now, do you know what I mean? I'm not going to mess around with them. I'm not going to watch that soap opera I've been watching all that. I'm not going to do none of that for now. It's a serious time now. I'm going to open Quran Al-Qayim. I'm going to recite, even if it means 3 verse, and I'm going to shut it, and I'm going to raise my hands. But do you know what I'm going to do tonight? I'm going to raise my hands up towards the Qibla. Think about it, what you're doing. I'm going to face the Qibla tonight. I'm going to put my musalla, I'm going to face the Qibla. I'm not going to raise my hand like this, I'm going to raise my hand like this. Sunnah also to raise the hand like this. Okay, all the way up. Just the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam done in the Yawm al-Badr. At the time of Badr, everyone's falling asleep. He stood up until his rida, until his thing fell, his cloak, it fell. He's crying and weeping so much, because if tomorrow, if they fail, then everything crumbles down. So he's making a lot of dua, raising his hand up all the way up. So you prepare it. All I'm saying is that, it's in some sort of preparation for dua. Then he says, he will not going to be rejected. It will not be rejected. Those type of dua will not going to be rejected. Okay? If there is any rejection, for example, I'll get to there anyway. I remember I was dealing with a person, and that person wasn't getting better. I started questioning, what are you doing? That, because you're telling me that you're sincere. I said, yes, I'm very sincere. Brother, I'm crying every night. I said, all right. Then I said, when you go out, what do you wear? I said, look, I wear abaya, I wear hijab. I said, okay, that's fine. What else do you do? And I put a bit of a perfume on. I said, that's the problem. Let go of the perfume. The shaitan loves it. The jinn loves the person, mu'attara, a lady with got perfume. Another person I asked, I said, you know what, hold on. You still have issue. So you start going to contemplation stage. You start asking what the issue is. Okay, let's go to financial. So finance of a believer is also an ibadah. I said, tell me, what do you do? I said, look, I've taken a loan now. I'm in the riba. I've got a riba to pay off. I said, that's your problem. Come out of riba, Allah Azza wa Jalla going to answer you. Can you imagine? Little things, people don't realize that it's going to make an effect in Allah Azza wa Jal rahmah to come down upon you. So sometimes what it needs is that you need to start realizing and kind of contemplating what the problems are. It could be me not being nice to my mum. It could be what I said to my mum that she still kept it in her heart, that she hasn't let go of it. How could he say that to me? So you find out those little things, or maybe you've abused your wife, maybe you said something, maybe you were not nice to your colleagues, or maybe they still kept it, and because of that person, your dua is not being answered. Brothers, the only thing that keeps a person from his hisab for a mayyit is his dain, is the debt that he left behind. Back in the days, they never used to do janazah for a person who left debt behind. The body used to get stacked in the, just before the turba, just before the graveyard, there used to be like a place back in the days. And the rich people would pass by and they used to help them out for them to get buried. Like one time, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Bury them, that's the important bit. But many people leave debt behind, and they leave it behind for the children. He isn't even ready for that. He isn't even ready to pay off his dad's debt. Obviously, there's a fiqh of ruling in that, if the son's got money to pay off, then he can do it. The ulama, many of them say, do you know what? If you don't want to pay, it's not the dhanb doesn't stay in your back. Many ulama, they have said that, if you can pay it of your dad's debt, then that's something else. You can pay it off from your bir, from your piety. But every man stands for himself at the end. So, just because the person hasn't paid the debt, everything stopped. It's stalled. It's stalled. So your dua will not going to be answered. It's still stalled. Can you believe it? Ya Rabbal Alameen. Then he says, Ad'iyya ma'thura. What's the time, akhi? What time do we start? Okay. All right. Then he says, فَمِنْهَا فِي سُنَنْ وَفِي صَحِيحِ ابن حبان عن من حديث عبد الله بن بريدة عن أبيه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سمع رجلا يقول, that one of the Sahabi was saying a dua and a person heard it. He said, اللهم إني أسألك بأني أشهدك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت أحد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لقد سأل الله باسم الذي إذا سئل به أعطى وإذا دعي به أجب. وفي لفظ لقد سألت الله باسم الله الأعظم. So he made a dua, اللهم إني أسألك بأني أشهدك أنك أنت الله. I ask you with thee, Allahumma inni as'aluka, I ask you with, that I bear witness that there's no deity worthy of worship except you. Al-ahadu samad alladhi lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. The last part of Surah Al-Ikhlas. The Prophet ﷺ replied and said, لَقَدْ سَأَلْتَ اللَّهَ بِإِسْمِ اللَّهِ الَّذِي إِذَا سُئِلَ بِهِ أَعْطَى. If you go to that dua that I've just said, I'm going to inshallah share it, brothers, on the group, so you all have it. I'm going to try my best to write it down and send it to you lot. That the name that you have asked, if you were to ask Allah Azza wa Jalla with those specific names, He'll give it to you. وَإِذَا دُعِيَ بِهِ أَجَبْ. If you were to ask with those names, you will be answered. And another hadith that we reported by Ibn Anas, أنه كان مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم جالسا ورجل يصلي ثم دعا فقال اللهم إني أسألك بأن لك الحمد لا إله إلا أنت المنان بديع السماوات والأرض ذا الجلال والإكرام يا حي يا قيوم. فقال, and that's the dua. Okay, the dua is اللهم إني أسألك بأن لك الحمد لا إله إلا أنت المنان بديع السماوات والأرض ذا الجلال والإكرام. There's 5 names here. يا حي يا قيوم. 6, 7. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لقد دعا الله باسمه الأعظم. You have asked Allah with the greatest of names. الذي إذا دعي به أجب. If you were to ask with those names, it will be answered. وَإِذَا سُئِلَ بِهِ أَعْطَى. If you were to ask with those names and attributes, you will receive it. وأخرج الحديثان الإمام أحمد في مسنده. Another hadith, وفي حديث جامع الترمذي في حديث أسماء البنت بريدة أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اسم الله الأعظم في هاتين الآيتين. Another name that if you say it in those two, in that verse, in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ الرَّحِيمُ. Can you imagine? وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. Your Lord is one. لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم. وفاتحة آل عمران. And also the opening of Al Imran. ألف لام ميم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. وقال الترمذي هذا حديث حسن صحيح. So you start off, brothers. So you say وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. One of the things what I do also when I want to provoke, in that job that I do, when I want to provoke, if that person is seriously possessed or not, I just constantly say this verse. Now I'm saying that in my tired time. When I receive a phone call, for example, and that person is very much affected, I don't have much time because it's late and I don't want to talk. You know, you're home, but you want to kind of not neglect them at the same time. You know, so what I tend to do is I listen, brother or sister, just listen to me, and if you feel anything, let me know. Can do that. I'm going to recite for only 5 minutes, and I'm going to find out what you have. All I do is I just say that verse. وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ الرَّحِيمُ. Then I raise it up. وَإِلَهُكُمْ, so in the phone, yeah. وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ واحد 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 لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم وإلهكم إله واحد. Straight away. Do you feel anything? Like, yeah, I feel my head is buzzing, my head is, I feel migraine, my leg is shaking, my hand is shaking. Think about it, brothers. What are you reciting? What are you reciting? You're reciting the name of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Wa ilahukum ilahu wahid. Shove it down the throat. They only have one ilah, one ma'bud. Sometimes you don't need nothing. In Ruqya you only need that verse. Nothing. Sometimes you do, what is it? It's simple. I say, yeah, it is simple. Ruqya is simple. Ruqya is simple. You recite that verse. Recite it. Recite with different voice. You have to agitate it. And teach about Tawheed. Learn Tawheed. Why are you saying, وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ? Your Lord is only one. Wahid. La ilaha illa. There's la ma'buda bihaq. There's no deity worthy of worship, or there's no deity worthy of worship except Him. There's no deity. Everything out there, is batil. La ilaha illa huwa ar-Rahman. Then you're saying the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And subhanallah, your dua will always going to be answered with that verse. And also Alif Lam Mim. ذلك الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. And also Ayat al-Kursi. Even if it means in the dua you add Ayat al-Kursi, you do it in your dua, because the best verse and the most strongest verse you're ever going to appreciate in your life is actually that verse. Is actually Ayat al-Kursi. And then he says, وفي مسند الإمام أحمد in his مسند وفي صحيح الحاكم من حديث أبو هريرة رضي الله عنه وأنس بن مالك وربيعة بن عامر رضي الله عنهم عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ألظوا بيا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Okay, he says that ألظوا means التزموا, hold on to ذا الجلال والإكرام. ذا الجلال والإكرام. Okay, وداوموا عليها. And hold on to it, meaning constantly say it. Constantly say those words. Ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Mean ta'allaq. Ta'allaq means connect with it. Connect yourself with those two words. Meaning in your dua, to expand it. You expand it. With those two words. وفي جامع الترمذي من حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا أهمه الأمر ورفع رأسه إلى السماء وإذا اجتهد في الدعاء يقول يا حي يا قيوم. When he used to feel the need to ask Allah Azza wa Jal, what he would do, he will raise his head towards the sky in the sincere moments, and then he will strive by saying Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, and then he will ask Allah Azza wa Jal what he wants. Then he says, so much, subhanallah. Then he says, وفي الصحيح أيضا, I'm going to miss out a few ones, أنه سمع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول هل أدلكم على اسم الله الأعظم. He said, shall I direct you to the best of names? He said it to his companion. And then he said, الدعاء يونس عليه السلام, الدعاء يونس. قال رجل يا رسول الله كان ليونس خاصة. Is it only for Yunus عليه السلام? فقال ألا تسمع قوله تعالى, don't you hear what Allah Azza wa Jal said, فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين. He has answered and has saved you from the difficulty and the calamity and the grief. وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين, and he saves the believers. فأيما مسلم دعا بها في مرضه 40 مرة فمات في مرضه ذلك أعطي أجر شهيد. And the person who recites that dua, لا إله إلا أنت, the dua, my brothers, is لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. That's the dua, yeah? That's the dua. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. That's the dua. Someone who says that for 40 days and he passes away in that situation, in his difficulty, in that illness that's going through, will get the reward of a shaheed. وَإِن بَرِئَ فَبَرِئَ مَغْفُورًا لَهُ. And if he becomes cured by saying that dua, in that even after 40 days, then every sin will be forgiven from him. But this doesn't have a chain. It's not authentic, but the meaning is correct. And Ibn Al-Qayim, brothers, he also mentioned many hadith that actually doesn't have a chain, but its meaning is correct. Ibn Al-Qayim, he chose it very specifically with his vast knowledge. So, so it's quite still disputed, but in its meaning is correct. And also, if you look at the usul of hadith, the hadith of da'if to a certain extent is acceptable when it comes to targhib or tarhib, when it comes to reward and ajr. It's acceptable to use of the hadith when it comes to usage of encouraging someone to do good deeds. But when it comes to worship and ibadah, it's a different thing. It's different thing. For example, just recently we went through the Nisf of Sha'ban, Shib Barat, yeah? So people still celebrate it, and I was quite shocked. This person was actually narrating the same hadith. And this hadith actually mawdu'. It's actually not there. If you go to Mecca and Medina, it's a normal day. You know what I mean? But he still mentioned it. He said the person who's known for hadith, he mentioned it in his status. I was like, hold on, it doesn't really make sense. Then you realize that such a person is actually not even in the country. He's at the moment in another country, in Asia. So he got very much dwelled into that atmosphere. But does it mean the hadith, it suddenly becomes something graded as a hasan, as graded as something authentic? No, it doesn't. You stay firm at it. You stay firm, even if it means you're changing countries to a different timing. Hadith stays the same. Hadith, it stays the same. Just a couple of weeks ago, I remember I received a phone call for me to go to a person's house. Apparently he's a third millionaire in the UK. I don't even know who he is. He wants me to go to his house and to recite the whole Quran in 15 hours. I said, why? I can do it even in 10 hours. But tell me, what's the reason? He said, no, someone passed away. It's just something that they do every year. I said, look, brother, he'll give you a couple of grand for that. I said, you give me 50 million pounds, I'm not going to go tonight. I'm not going to go. Because this is bid'ah. This is bid'ah, how can you do that? You give me so much, I don't care if you're a millionaire. In front of my eyes, you're nothing in front of my eyes anyway. I'm only going to respect someone with knowledge, someone who's got his nobility in his character. Money doesn't make you anything. So don't give me this money BS. It doesn't really matter to me. But tell me you as a person, and I don't mind, helping you out. He said, look, you have to come and, recite the whole Quran. Please come. I'm really serious. You telling me to please come and the whole Quran in 10 hours. When did that come from? Yes, I know another little kid. I went back home and I had them banging it, do you know what I mean? And just listen, and for someone who's jahil, wow, it's so amazing. Wow, it's so amazing. Out of awness, you look at them. Even in Egypt, when someone dies, they recite the best verse about a person in Jannah. They recite the best of verse and they take 40,000 Egyptian pounds for that night, or 20. Yeah, some of them they take 20,000 Egyptian pounds for that night. And they'll come over and they're like, obviously clean shaven, and they'll recite it, Fatahila, you know what I mean? They're killing it, But really and truly, what are they doing? If it's not part of the Sunnah, then it's actually, you cannot add that to your books of record. It cannot be added. Okay. Okay. What's the time, Akhi? 9:19. Okay. So he says, then he said, وفي صحيحين من حديث ابن عباس أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقول عند الكرب. The Prophet used to say in the time of difficulty, لا إله إلا الله العظيم الحليم. لا إله إلا الله رب العرش العظيم. لا إله إلا الله رب السماوات ورب الأرض ورب العرش الكريم. He used to say that also. لا إله إلا الله العظيم الحليم. I'm going to write that down inshallah. لا إله إلا الله رب العرش العظيم. لا إله إلا الله رب السماوات ورب الأرض ورب العرش الكريم. وفي مسند الإمام أحمد من حديث علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله عنه قال علمني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا نزل بكرب أن أقول لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم سبحان الله وتبارك الله رب العرش العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين. That's another dua he used to say. وفي مسنده أيضا من حديث عبد الله بن مسعود قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما أصاب أحدا قط هم ولا حزن. A person going through difficulty or a time of grief or anxiety and issues related to that, if he was to say Allahumma inni abaduk ibn abadik ibn amatik nasiyati biyadik madin fi hukmik adlun fi qada'ik Allahumma أسألك اللهم بكل اسم هو لك سميت به نفسك أو علمته أحدا من خلقك أو أنزلته في كتابك أو استأثرت به علم الغيب عندك أن تجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلبي ونور صدري وجلاء حزني وذهاب همي إلا أذهب الله عز وجل همه وحزنه وأبدله مكانه فرحا. فقيل يا رسول الله ألا نتعلمها؟ قال بلى ينبغي لمن سمعها أن يتعلمها. That's the dua. I'm going to write it down, brothers. And that's a very important dua, because in this hadith, the Sahabi, he says, Ya Rasulullah, shall I teach to other people that same dua? He said, yes. Anyone who hears it has to memorize it. Okay? Anyone who hears it has to memorize it. So it's quite a long year. So Allahumma inni abaduk ibn abadik ibn amatik nasiyati biyadik madin fi hukmik adlun fi qada'ik أسألك اللهم بكل اسم هو لك سميت به نفسك أو علمته أحدا من خلقك أو أنزلت في كتابي أو استأثرت به علم الغيب عندك. I haven't memorized it fully yet, so I'm in this with you lot. Okay, I haven't memorized that one, so I'm with you lot. I've memorized only half of it. أن تجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلبي ونور صدري وجلاء حزني وذهاب همي. That's the dua. Okay. Brothers, a lot of dua has been said. What does it teach us, brothers? I think that's very important. It teaches that all the dua, all the problem that you may go through is already there. You use the same dua that Prophet used, because he's the most beloved person to Allah Azza wa Jal. You don't need to say it with your own language. Memorize it. Memorize the ones that already there, already Allah Azza wa Jal loves you're saying it with it. The best tawassul, tawassul meaning the best, tawassul, brothers, means that you use for your dua to be answered in the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. Also the good deed that you have done. The good deed that you have done. It could be anything. It could be, that you saved someone, life by giving money. I think in 2010, in the masjid, I don't know if the brother's not here, sometimes you get people coming to the mosque after Salatul Jummah in Egypt, and they start screaming, "Oh, my son gonna become disabled, I need money." But think about it, some of them they said, go away, go outside, they chuck them away, poor man coming asking for money, go away. But some of them actually are sincere. Some of the women, they actually need that money. So they will actually say, I need money. That time, I think it was in 2010. So I thought, let me go and ask her, let me see if it's true or not. So I went, the one who's taking care of that was another brother. His name is brother Faris. So I asked him, يا شيخ فارس هل هذا صحيح أو غلط؟ يعني أنت هي جاءت في المسجد فنادت بأشياء كثيرة فلا أدري هذا صحيح أو غلط. Is that true or not? He said, يا محمد هذا صحيح. This is true. Her son going to become disabled in a couple of days if she doesn't go through the amaliyat, the operation. What I obviously newly married, I told my missus, go and tell your friends, let's gather £200, come, let's do it. We gathered the money in a couple of hours. I said, yeah, Faris, the money's done. Let's go. Let's go and let's get that money out. I'll give it to her. Let's see what happens. Me and him, we drove down the ATM machine, got the money out, and after a couple of days, the lady came to me and said, you know what, we done the operation and it's got better. I said, subhanallah. I think with this good deed, I've done dua for many, many years. And I'll tell you what, the timing, the situation of dua when it's accepted. Ibn Al-Qayim, he says that certain dua you'll present to Allah Azza wa Jal, it'll be accepted. But don't think that's the only way. Don't think that, that good deed that you have done is always going to be answered. ليست متكررة. It's always not going to be, only one deed. But it might be answered sometime, might not even be answered anymore. You used it all. Your points are out. Do you know what I mean? So there is a way of dealing with how to make that dua. And I just said it openly today. After many years, I kept it hidden. Today, I thought I'm going to tell the brothers. That beautiful deed, I think, was very beloved. It was something very nice to hear. She actually was crying next to me. Do you know what? You're the one, actually the only one who owned up and gave me the money when no one wasn't there. At that time, it's a very poor area, so people actually don't have much money. I said, you know what, do something for yourself. When the son grows up, make sure that you study him deen. Can you do that? She said, yes. I'll make sure that he studies the deen. Then send him to Al-Azhar. Make sure he studies in Al-Azhar. I said, yes, son, I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to remember that. Because I didn't see her anymore. I kept linked with Faris. And, the child is doing really well. Now he's probably a teenager, Allah musta'an. But I think the good deed, everyone has to kind of search and find out. Sometimes what I tend to do is, someone going through difficulty, I tell the person, do you know what? Go and send some money and buy a sheep and sacrifice it. Sacrifice for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Spend 80, 90 pounds. Send it back home. Every sha'ra, every hair that the sheep has, you're going to get the reward for it. Think about it. And from that good deed, ask Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Allah, I've sacrificed the sheep in your name. Answer my dua, ajibni. Give me that thing that I really want. And see how it goes. And when someone goes through difficulty, especially when I meet patients going through severe sihr problem, that's turning their life 360 degree, I tell them that, listen, even if it means give £5 a week to £3 a week, carry on giving money. Don't stop charity. Don't stop charity. Carry on giving money. And you will see that Allah Azza wa Jalla, through your charity, through your tawassul, and through your sincerity, جل وعلا will answer your dua. أقول قولي هذا نستغفر الله ولكم والسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب إنه هو البر الرحيم.